Okay, welcome back, everybody. This is episode number 4 of National Knockout Classics. Last week, we had a trip down memory lane with the 2003 Cup run where we got all the way to the final. If you haven't listened to that one, feel free to download and have a listen. It's a really good episode with Statey, Ben Staunton and Greg Brown. We've also had Adam Kelly and James Brown episodes 1 and 2. Today, we're going to have a look at a game from 2015 and one of my favourite games in a Bath shirt. We have already done this intro once because the question had a bit of a meltdown with his internet. He is the star of this game. It was an away quarter-final at Roffey, a team from Essex, which required a brilliant knock on the day from one player. And I'm very fortunate today that guy joins me now. It is Seb Benton. How are you, mate?
I'm very good, Letty. How are you?
I'm good. I think we're doing quite a good job at making this sound original and
yeah, take 2 is quite kind, actually. Yeah,
I think it's very important for the listeners out there that we do hash out the banter we had to do with your hair. It's looking absolutely spectacular at the moment, mate, I must say.
Yes, yeah. That was I don't say it was week 4 of lockdown, but it was officially week 1. The missus didn't matter that much, mate. I drove to Morrison's, bought some peroxide, and yeah, the rest is history, mate. As you can see, it's glowing in all its glory. And
being called Claire Balding, you thought you'd go for the Boris Johnson look?
Boris Johnson, mate. Yeah, I've had Boris. I've had Joe Exotic. Who was the host of Deal or No Deal? I had that last week as well.
Noel Edmonds.
Noel Edmonds, yeah, with a ginger beard as well. I'm sporting our current captain, Samuel Mounts, the Ranger, with the ginger beard, mate. So it's tough stuff.
I saw a horrifying beard from James Campbell the other day. I think he's actually just cut it, but he sort of looked like a sort of gypsy crossed with maybe like a 14-year-old blonde gypsy, sort of like long stringy hairs on the top, but then a big gap to like chin.
He's still very baby face, isn't he, JC? So I think it's.
I don't think he could grow a beard if he
caveman look didn't suit him too well.
No, mate, not really. So
he's keeping his shredded photos quite quiet recently as well. One of the dad bods back in the James Campbell household. He's very quick to blast that over the internet when it.
Every time I speak to him, he's putting his pizza oven on, sitting outside. So I wouldn't be surprised at all, mate. To be honest. Well, look, we do have a little bit of cricket to get to, obviously, but before we do that, how's the lockdown treating?
Yeah, no, it's not too bad, mate. Yeah, obviously work-wise is very quiet now. The pubs and restaurants are closed, so the day jobs officially halted, mate. I'm working a little bit from home, and I start my furlough from the 1st of May, so I can officially put the feet up and pray the golf courses might have relaxed come the 1st of May. But until then, mate, it's Netflix and cycling is the new hobbies. And
how far are you up to? Are you distance or?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I'm surprised. It's a little bit hilly down here, but I've done a couple of 40k cycles. Nothing on Alex Muse, but it's something that's keep me sane, mate, and get me out of the house. So it's not too bad.
That's got to chop a good portion out of the day as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's good to get an hour and a half. We'll see how it takes me. But it's quite. I've found out it's quite expensive sport to get into.
All the gear.
Yeah, I mean, Christ, even like you're looking at shoes, 120 quid for a pair of shoes, and that's like low end. So
if there are other cycling fans out there, maybe you can answer this question for me, because one thing I've never understand is when you are an amateur cyclist, like yourself, why is it necessary to wear the full head-to-toe lycra and clip-on shoes, for a 40k cycle? I mean, you're not working against the clock, are you?
You know what, mate?
With a t-shirt and a pair of shorts.
Maybe ask that question in like another 8 weeks once I've had the full aerodynamics on. But because currently I'm sporting a very nice pair of, they call them bib shorts, which is like, you imagine obviously a pair of cycling shorts padded in the crotch to keep your jewels nice and carefree, and then like a sort of like a bib, and then over the top I've got a cricket jumper and a pair of Nike trainer socks. So I'm sort of half and half currently. But it's I think it's more psychological, mate. You got to look the part. It's one of those sports where you drive past your fellow cyclists, and if they see you in a Man United shirt and a pair of Donnays, I'm not too sure you'll.
Oh, you see, you're worried about the cycling community not taking you seriously.
Well, mate, you know what? It's if I can look good, mate, I'll tick one box.
So you've got the Team Sky.
Team Sky, yeah, colours, mate, and yeah, we'll see how long this lasts once the lockdown's done, mate. But
all right. Well, look, let's.
Apart from ripping up your back garden, what's your hobbies now? This is all.
I mean, to be honest, mate, chasing kids around from 7 a.m. till 5 is a full-time job. But as you alluded to there, I have taken to my back garden, driveway, and anywhere else I can chip with a foam golf ball and my sand wedge. Yeah, mate, it's not too bad. I'm planning out a five-hole course at the moment, so we're getting there, mate. Yeah, just practicing on that short game.
We've kept us entertained, mate, so keep them coming.
All right. Well, let me take you back to 2015 then. So, your first season at the club. Where had you been before then?
I'd been in Bristol actually for a couple of years, but I'd been travelling back to my home county Devon to play for Exmouth, who had spent 3 seasons at, which was great fun. But obviously, as the day job got a bit more taxing on the lifestyle, driving back week in, week out, 2 hours down the M5 on a Friday afternoon was not enjoyable. So I think I actually ended up dropping. I obviously had known of JC a little bit through my junior county cricket days, playing against him, and Mountie from uni. But apart from that, I just put the courage up to drop senior Rob Maggs an email and just say, look, I'm looking for a club in Bristol. Well, not in Bristol, obviously, but in the area. And he said, mate, be more than welcome for you to come and join us and have a hit at the indoor school. And that's where it all started.
First impressions?
Well, mate, the first bloke I met was David Ford. And I thought, what the fuck have I done here? But you know what?
I should point out at this point that this is a family podcast.
Oh,
Sebastian, so mind your language, we'll bleep that out.
Sorry, apologies all. But actually, credit to Dave, he was very welcoming, very forthright, and he welcomed me into the indoor school with a flat one. So yeah, no, it's good fun, mate. It was only about a dozen. I think it was your first or the first winter net. So the big dogs like yourself didn't come in until about January, February time. So I was yeah, no, it was good fun. Yeah, Mountie was there. Went for, I think, Lloydie actually was coming to the end of his fitness career, so he took us on a little 5-kilometre run through Bath. And yeah, no, mate, it was good fun. It was good fun. I've not been blessed those sort of facilities before, so to play come down and train indoors at your own ground was quite nice.
That must have been very close to the end of Lloyd's knees, because as the season wore on that year, I don't think he'd have been travelling 5k roads.
Yeah, no.
So obviously you come to the club, you know, what were your expectations in terms of, first team, second team, league titles, that kind of stuff? I mean, was there anything that you had set your sights on necessarily, or you just wanted to play a bit of cricket?
No, I mean, I'd never actually played at Bath before, but obviously, you hear of, you see of, obviously the history of the club, and it's great teams and players like yourself that have come through the ranks. So I always knew that it's going to be a challenge to compete and get a first team spot was obviously the plan. But happy to ride it out, play some second team cricket, try and prove myself with some runs. And from the start, it was a very enjoyable. I think our first game might have been, I want to say I played with you against Gloucester 2s at home. I think it was our first game. Got 8 or 9, I think.
Cold day, that one, I remember.
Very cold. But yeah, no, it's just more, I was just looking to get settled into a club up in the Bristol Bath region, and what kind of it would have taken care of itself. And for my sake, I played a bit of first team cricket, so it was quite good fun.
So you kind of, I mean, you had a fairly decent run in the first team. I mean, but as long as I've known you, you've always, you've not been an 18 weeker, in terms of your league cricket. Is that just, you just kind of want to keep the balance right, or?
Yeah, I mean, without boring you too much, I've always, for about 3 or 4 years prior to coming to Bath, I'd always I'd always been at an 18-weeker, week in, week out, and the more I got to know the reasons why my mum divorced my dad was because my dad was a 56-weeker. Every week of his life was sport. And I started to think, do I really want to be... As my ambitions of being a professional cricketer sort of dwindled at university and come to an end, I thought, you know what, mate, I'll enjoy it as much as I can. And if I want to have a weekend off, I'm in the right position in an amateur sport to do so. And if I lost a position or a week in a first team, so be it. So that was I've always enjoyed it. But if a wedding or a stag do arrives, mate, it was straight on the plane or straight in the car, and that would be my probably not the best outlook on sport. But
do you know what, mate? I think it's definitely a younger man's game, isn't it? Playing every week in the league. I mean, I used to live for the weekends up until actually, and Stacey said the same, last week on the last episode. But I used to, if we had a Saturday Sunday game, happy days for Bath.
Yeah.
Look forward to it. Play cricket every week, and I never took a summer holiday until I was 27. I think was the first time I took a summer holiday, and it kind of put things in perspective, really, because you got to keep enjoying it as much as you can. But that at a club like Bath, you're obviously going to put your chances of playing first team cricket in jeopardy. But from the sound, that wasn't something that kind of kept you up at night.
No. And I think my first season, maybe my second season, I probably would have said I committed myself to probably 95% of the season, probably the first season. And then I got to that age, mate, where friends and around me were getting married, and it was that would sort of take precedence to go to their wedding. And if it happened that I lost my position in the team, I took that sacrifice. So
you're kind of in and out, and during the cup run that year, you popped up in the first round at Clevedon, and then again a little bit later on. But I think if I'm right in saying, by the time we get to the quarter-final, the Roffey game, I think it's your first weekend back in the first team for a few weeks. So you must have been away somewhere. But do you remember what happened the day before that game?
If my memory serves me right, I think we were at Bristol.
Yeah, we were, yeah.
Yeah, and I think we might have won, but I want to say I was like 40 odd not out, and I just played and missed about 16 times at who's the Bristol opening bowler?
Will Rudge,
and he'd whistled about several past my nose, a couple of horrific play and misses, and then a couple of crunching cover drives as my career sort of started and finished. And then I remember that bloke who chucks it come on and bowled me a few whistly ones, and then I sort of went down with, I think, like a migraine or something, and came off injured at like 40 not out or something, or 35 not out.
Yeah, so at this stage of the season, I do remember it being quite a warm weekend, but yeah, you sort of opened the batting, you kind of going along quite nicely, and then all of a sudden, just like, you were out for the cat. I remember you sitting underneath the balcony at Bristol, just like with a towel on your head or something, just drinking pint after pint of water. But
yeah,
it says according to the scorecard that you've only faced 46 balls. So I don't understand how you could have been so dehydrated in such a short period of time.
Obviously, it'd been a tough week at work, mate. I might have hit the amber nectar quite hard, and that was my slight hangover. But no, I just remember it being really hot, really, and Sunday, we'll come on to it, it felt even hotter. But there was reasons for that.
The only time that season that
but obviously, come off the field, we did win in the end. Got quite close, I believe. I might have even got padded back up.
Yeah, it's sort of true Bath fashion. I think we sort of tried to bottle it and then just found to avoid it. That was the second of two retired Hurts for you in the first team that season. Do you remember the other one?
Did I?
Roster away.
Oh yeah. Yeah. In my under 12s helmet, and decided to duck a half volley from Muchie.
Correct.
And then up in A&E with Magsy with, I think I might call it concussion, but I think it was just
Was that a premeditated duck?
Well, I obviously had seen Joe Barrett go in before me. I think I batted 3 or 4 that game, and Joe Barrett's just casually pulled Muchie to deep fine leg, thinking, well, he made it look quite good. I mean, it obviously always looks quicker side on, doesn't it? And not the first time I've been hit in the head. And I think it was my first ball. I mean, my first ball.
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm obviously must have been in Lloyd's bad books that week because I'm number 5 on the card.
The first time.
I can't remember ever batting 5 Bath apart from this game, but I remember walking out and you were still sort of on the floor. Like thinking, well, do I take guard or do I sort of help the fridge? Like,
it was very weird. All I remember that game was me being hit, and then I'd obviously gone on my knees, then got back up. And as I've got back up, I've sort of like there's a slope, isn't there, from left to right from the pavilion down, and I sort of felt myself stumble down the hill a little bit. And I'm thinking, I don't feel right here. I want to sort of try and carry on, but right, Letty, over to you, mate. Because it's rock hard at Foster, isn't it? I may have played there a couple of times, and yeah. So thanks for reminding me of that
one. So we get in the car at Bristol. Obviously, you've had a bit of a rough day, but you seem to have perked up. Obviously, the journey up the night before. One of the great things about the national, I think the relationship the clubs had with it is that you always play clubs. You know, the further you go along, you always play clubs that you haven't played before, and you always do things which for club cricket is quite fun, like travelling up the night before, staying in a hotel, that kind of stuff. And we went up. I'd never heard of Roffey, no idea. No. But it's a national quarter final, and I think I'm right in saying we had two coaches.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Very, very tight ground, wasn't it, when we got there?
Tiny ground. Yeah, really small.
And they'd sort of put the wicket right in the middle, and there was hardly any space for anyone to sit around the outside. I remember like people kind of just sort of stand coming in, but obviously it was a big day. I mean, I don't know how much of it you remember, of before the game, but I mean, do you remember kind of how you felt going into that game? Obviously, kind of haven't sort of cemented your place so much.
Yeah. It was a strange one because the knock the day before the 40 odd now I might have got. I think it would come down to on the day. I think because we tended to have taken a squad of 13 to these games, one definite water boy, and then a 12th man, and that other day was in my head it was between me and Mounty, and obviously aside from day-to-day stuff with cricket, we were sort of very close friends outside the game, and his family come up, my family come up, thinking, shit, we're gonna have to have a very difficult conversation here, one of us. Fortunately or unfortunately, for Sam had to have that conversation with his family, and I think his brother come up from London, his mum come up, and obviously Sam was 12ers, and then as soon as I found out, the sort of nerves then kicked in, as they do for any game, and we got sort of a few rumours through around that the wicket we played on was a played wicket from the day before, and they'd always like to bat second because it was very slow and low, and it looked very dry. I think we lost the toss. They put us in, and we thought, there we go, it's perfect for their game plan. But it was scorching hot.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I remember rightly, I think Lloydie wanted to chase as well.
Did he? Okay.
Because the ground was so small, and as you said, it was really hot. It's always tough defending on those kinds of grounds. And I think, if I remember rightly, it was because obviously, like in the rounds, I'm pretty sure we chased every round. But I remember every round, Lloydie kind of just saying, as captain, when we chased, it was always like, look, this is what we're going to do. We're just gonna play positively all the time. We're just going to keep attacking, and if we get bowled out 100 short, we get bowled out 100 short. We're just going to keep coming out. So I think that's why he probably wanted to chase. But I've played a lot of these like tight games, where you feel a little bit different on the morning of the game than you do with any other. I think batting first, runs on the board. It's just, I don't know. I just think even if you get 75, it just feels like a lot to chase.
And it was always that. And I've never had that feeling with a team before as I did with Bath. With the cup is such a massive part of the club's history, and as that year progressed, and we got in, obviously your unbelievable innings against Sunbury the month before, I didn't play. And it was just like, wow, this means so much to this club. Singing the song in the early rounds, didn't know the words, just mumbled along, but part of being a new player. And it's just, that whole build-up and hearing you and Lloydie and AK putting a few words of advice before the game and how much it means to bring two coaches up. Was it a 3-hour trip, to fill that ground which felt like a home game, at some stage of that game. It was,
we spoke about it on the previous episode, but I think, when you look back, when I think back through all the years that I played for Bath, you don't remember the years that you won the league so much, and it's not like it's going to sound bad, but when you expect to do something and you do it doesn't stick out in your mind. Whereas we've lost in 3 finals, couple of semis, few quarterfinals, but every year that's the one thing the club hasn't done, and so it's always brought people out. It's always kind of brought supporters along. But when you get to the quarterfinal and you're away and you see a ground as full as it was, I mean, it was pretty special, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great, and it was great for myself as well. My dad had driven up with my girlfriend and stepmum for the day, which is, he barely could get out of Devon, let alone up to Essex. So it was great to have him along, and he brought a few friends that had across come from London. So it was, those are always special moments when your family can come up and watch you as well.
So we back first.
Yes.
Things don't exactly go to plan. It just kind of feels like when we were batting that day, it just kind of felt like we were always just behind the game a little bit, and we end up in pretty deep trouble at 96 for 5 when Lloyd goes.
Yeah.
And Jenks comes in. I mean, you've come in at number 4. You've seen a bit of the carnage happen. I mean, what's your kind of think about the direction of the game, the opposition, all that kind of stuff when it does get to 90 for?
Yeah, I think at that point I can't remember how it overs had gone, but I was chewing a few balls up, but it was a matter of staying in, build partnerships. I put in, I want to say maybe it's 40 or 50 with Jenks, but it didn't come in rapid time, and he was, I say that the more dominating partner in that partnership, and I would sort of just, again, in my head I was like, we've got to take this as long as and deep as we can, and just have something to sort of defend. And it was tough. They didn't have, wasn't much pace in that attack. It was a couple of keeper was up probably 40 overs of that game. A lot of spinners, and it was just 2s and 3s. Keep the scoreboard ticking as we can. No major risks, and just keep going and take it every sort of 5 overs. See where we were, assess it, and then Jenks went, and then I think I was joined by Rousey. I think Rousey may have come out. And again, we had a similar sort of, he came out and played a few shots like Rousey does and scored a quick fire 20 and took us to sort of the last 10 overs. And I might have been only on about 60 odd going into the last 10 overs, maybe a bit less than that. And it was, like I say, incredibly hard. I had a few sort of fortunate episodes where the keeper had sort of potentially missed a stumping, and there's a couple of dodgy run-outs that may or may not have gone our way, but did go our way. And then there's obviously a bit of a 5-over blast at the end, which took us up to 220 odd, I think it was. Maybe.
Yeah, which
from where we are was an unbelievable, I think, effort from our early fall downs with being 95.
Felt like a lot of runs. I mean, I think so far I've spoken to Kegsy about his all-round performance, but of course being under pressure, chasing is kind of a theme of the first 2 episodes with JB and Kegsy. But it's a very difficult. I think it's something that you can't teach, that sort of inner steel. That some people have and some people don't have it. And I've played in as many games where it's got tight and we've lost as in games where we've got tight and we've won in the national.
Yeah.
And always one person that makes the difference. It's always one person. It's never like, you never look at a scorecard in one of these tight national games and you just think, right, well, everyone's played their part and they've won a close game, And, to be able to kind of hold that innings together the way you did, is it, looking back on it now, do you remember specific things about the innings, or does it kind of just blend?
There was one. I think it was the guy that we'd we've got a few badge in the team that done a bit of pre-match analysis on one of their players. It was a spinner who whacks it, and he was a right arm off spinner. I remember how he bowled quite quick, and I thought he's bowling too quick for this wicket. So he for me was the easy one, just to push on the ground, and I would have hit 15, 20 singles down to mid on or through to a straight mid wicket. And that was I didn't want to play anything too risky. Didn't want to go aerial. Keep the ball ticking. As soon as the pace come back onto the ball, which was the easy, my preferred game is a bit more pace on the ball than the spin. Was just keep operating, keep rotating the strike and punish the bad ball. And that's when Jenks and Rousey sort of came into their own, because they would hit the boundaries and just let me accumulate and sort of play that sort of quiet role, keep the board ticking, and give that peace of mind that one end is secure here, and just take it as long as I can. And that's the strength we had in Bath, was we had a tail, lads that can score boundaries at the end. And then once I finally got my iron towards the end, I can hopefully plink a few over the line.
I think that's also something else to keep in mind for any young cricketers out there that are listening, is that if you're in and you're set, you have to kind of look at what you think a good score would be. Take all the outside stuff out of the equation, what the score is now, who's coming in, who's not, what a good score is, and how can you achieve that. And on a pitch and a ground such as the one we were playing on at Roffey, the way you went about that innings was perfect, because, as you said, you just kept it together, held the innings together. You batted with 2 or 3 guys, put on 20 or 30 each time, which crept us up. And when we got to about 175, you sort of think, okay, well, we've got something. We've got something in the bank that we can bowl at. But because the ground was so small, you say at the end, I managed to get hold of a couple in the last 5 overs, but it's so significant, that change of momentum, isn't it? Because by hanging around and having the patience, at the end, you've been able to get, the ball over what was a fairly short boundary 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
It swings the whole momentum the other way, doesn't it?
It was a big shift, like I say, because it was like about 175 going into the last 5 overs, and I thought, and that felt quite good, and it was only going to be me, without sounding overconfident, that was going to be able to sort of hit 20 or 30 in a few overs to get us above and beyond 200. And that 200 mark was such a significant number to get over psychologically for us, because we knew that they knew how to score runs on that ground. 175 would have been great. 200 was brilliant. And then we sort of managed to get to 220. And it was, I think Brownie at the end was up with me at the other end. And it was, I think, maybe 2 or 3 sixes in the last 6 balls before I got out. And that 20-run shift was massive for us.
I think sitting on the boundary watching, when you're watching one of your mates dig you out of a hole, you get invested very heavily in what's going on. And obviously, I remember you went from 86 to 98 in 2 balls, and all of a sudden there was 2 balls left in the innings.
Yeah.
And you went from sort of being in a position where you're probably going to finish 92, 93 not out. So this is brilliant. Everyone's standing. And I guess the only thing that I guess was missing was the big celebration when you got to 3.
But I completely bottled it as well. I've looking back now, amount of times, even on my first cycle, I've replayed that innings in my head and I'm thinking, I've stupidly gone for a sort of like a half-hearted clip of a mid wicket. And the 2 balls before, I've just bopped them into orbit. And I should have done the same but it was just in my back of my head, I was thinking, God, I'd have 100 for Bath here in the cup. And I've just not committed and just thought, but hey, it was still
chip it into a gap for 2.
Yeah, I know. And I was thinking, I'm just hitting for 6, do it again. But still, it didn't take anything away from that feeling coming off. Although I was completely knackered to come off to, not just 9 of my teammates, but all the fans that are down at the bottom end there, and it just felt incredible. My dad had walked round, and I was like, "Geez, I put us in a position here where we could hopefully do something special." And then you sort of sit down at tea, get a Lucozade, couldn't eat anything, just trying to take it all in, and just then, it was, and it almost gave us that massive go ahead then into the bowling.
Never felt at half time you'd have to ask their captain, but he'd probably have said, well, 221 on that ground is not a good score. But the way the innings shifted towards the end, those 6s that you hit, I think, we all felt like we were going to win the game at half time. I don't think there was any doubt in it. There's some great pictures, by the way, on the Bath website of this game. If you, on the Facebook page of this game.
Yeah.
So if you, if you guys out there listening, you want to have a look, there are some brilliant pictures, including the ball which Benton does bottle it, which is just.
It's got some horrific shapes there.
But so going into the second half, and we got off to an absolute belter with the ball.
Well, yeah. Lloydie, unbelievable opening spell.
Lloyd, when you talk about Bath players, well, when I think about Bath players over the last 15 years, the ones that I've played with, you always think back to what was their moment in the cup. There's always, if you're going to be someone that people remember at the club, you need to have that moment, that one big moment that people always remember. And Lloydie, well, I guess aside from an unbelievable catch he took at Ealing in 2013 in the quarter-final, I mean, honestly, I can still picture it in my mind's eye, and I don't know how he caught it, because I've seen him drop some of the worst drops I've ever seen. Honestly, I cannot believe how bad some of the drops I've seen him, but this to Ealing, unbelievable. I mean, the best catch I've ever seen. But he probably hadn't had his defining moment. And when you look at the scorecard, he's got 3 for 23, which is good figures. But the opening burst, I mean, just lifted everybody.
It was, and I think I was just at mid-on, and just the shapes he had on a ball that didn't swing, I think, much for them. He just moved it enough, and Lloyd's got that, ability in his armoury just to sort of move the ball enough. And we had some pretty safe hands in yourself and Joe Barrett, I think, at first. We might have taken the first. I just remember running at Barrett first.
Yeah, Barrett caught one and just blew.
And we got two of their big guns early doors playing some big shots, and just just hearing some of their fans decide, saying, we've never seen anyone bowl this quick here before. And Lloyd just had that ability in the short cup run that I had with Bath to just bowl some unbelievable spells. And you can't, the attitude he takes into it, you can't teach that sort of stuff. It's in his heart, and he just turns up. And with the shins that he had, he's not got now, but he was losing towards the end of that season. To put that spell of bowling in with AK the other end was unbelievable.
Well, I still think now, I don't think by any stretch the team we had in 2015 was the best equipped to maybe win a national knockout, because we had a very young side, But if Lloydie hadn't got injured in the first over in the semi-final at Blackheath, I think it would have been a very different story, because the sting went out of our attack a little bit. And but anyway, getting back, I mean, a start, and we had him in jail at 106 for 6, chasing, and then this fella, batting 5 or 6, played a real good knock and just started hitting boundaries and sixes.
Yeah. And from nowhere as well, he'd just block it and over. He wouldn't look for singles, and out of nowhere, he just it's 40 yards, but he'd make a very good ball look stupid and bop it. And you're thinking, this is what this lad has done previously and is doing currently. And it was that massive.
Very clearly, I was standing at deep cover, and I was stood next to Tom Baker, who was doing a lap of the ground. I suddenly looked up, and from being in a position where it looked like we were going to stroll to victory, they were 180 for 6, and they needed 40 off 7 overs.
Yeah.
I remember turning to him and I said to him, mate, I think it's not looking good here unless we get a wicket in this over. We're struggling, and then Mr. Bath Cricket steps up, and I still get goosebumps thinking about the 2 balls that went on. They had a guy who came in at 8 and had played a good knock, and it went absolutely miles in the air. I mean, Kegsy's come in and he's just hit down. He just went absolutely miles up. Was it you who took the catch?
Yeah. At mid, long on.
Absolutely, it was flown up, and it was a great grab. And all of a sudden, we've got the breakthrough, and then next ball, Kegsy cleans up the guy who's in on 60.
That's right.
And all of a sudden, like you just kind of, it's sort of like out of body stuff, isn't it? When you're celebrating a wicket and you can hear all of the Bath supporters around you doing the same thing, and you sort of know at that point you're going to win the game.
Oh, it's amazing. Well, when I was stood on the boundary at Long On, speaking to a couple of, I think it might be Kenny James actually. It was just quite funny, and that moment when that ball went up for that catch, and it just the whole ground just seemed
the last wicket,
and it goes off, and when you're running in to celebrate, there's no better feeling. Like everyone's just jumping for joy, and it's just you can't put that into words very easily because it's just, even though we didn't win a trophy, it was that how we won that game from the position we were in at the start of our innings and then towards the end of theirs. It was just amazing.
I suppose as well that the ball finds you at the end.
Yeah, it was. Well, no, mate. Sometimes a little bit of fairy dust.
Nice. There's a really nice picture of that actually. You kind of just celebrating, running in, having just.
Was there?
Yeah.
I've seen most of the photos, but I'll probably stop that for my batting.
I think Linus had his camera out that day, but
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, winning the game. I remember saying to Soph, my wife, who was 38 weeks pregnant at the time, with our would have been our first. I said to her when I sort of left on the Saturday morning, because I like to go to the Bristol game. I said, don't worry. Obviously, I'm not gonna drink this weekend, just in case, because obviously you're at the point where you could drop at any time. And I remember doing a FaceTime on the outfield after. By the way, do you remember the outfield was like pine needles? Do you remember?
Oh, it was horrible. Yeah. It was just
little detour here. This is
yeah. Go with it.
Sitting on the outfield, putting my hand down, it was like touching razor blades. I remember doing a FaceTime with her, saying, "Listen, I know I said I wasn't going to drink tonight, and remembering that. Well, hopefully we've got some young listeners out there. You've only sworn twice, which is a good effort, but the journey home, keeping it as clean as you possibly can."
Well, just to put a bit of context behind, similar to you, is obviously my dad and stepmom had come up with my girlfriend, and for the dozen players that played that season know her as Ella, but for those that don't, she was my ex-girlfriend. She'd obviously come up as well, and we'd obviously pre-planned what we're going to do after the game, win or lose, because you don't expect yourself to go ahead and do what I'd done. Yeah, well, I'll go back with Dad. Sort of pre-told Magsy that I'll come back, go back with my parents, and obviously managed to convince my dad and my stepmom, and they're like, "Yeah, of course, go and enjoy it." And I was not so keen on me jumping on the bus, and she'd driven 3 hours to come and see me do this. "I want you to come home." I said, "Ella, this is never going to happen to me again in my career. I'm going," which didn't end too well. And I think our first song, "Clothes Are Off," and it was 3 hours of absolute joy. Wrong turns. A 2 hour, I think a 3 hour trip turned into a 4.5 hour trip. We dropped you home, I think, to your front door.
Never relented, mate. Well, it wasn't to my front door because I got drunk. Magsy couldn't be bothered to drive me home. I think he'd gotten to the point where he'd been up front driving for 4 hours listening to what was going on in the and it was literally like a 2 minute. He had to just detour for 2 minutes. He said no, I had to get out and walk. And I remember having to call Soap, who was 9 months pregnant, to drive out and pick me up by the local. And obviously your missus at the time wasn't mad.
No. I mean, we got back to the cricket club an hour. I think she ran me with an hour to go. So it'll be an hour, perfect. And that hour turned into 2 hours, and they're still sat in the car park at Bath, still with a half an hour journey back to Bristol where we're all staying. And we got back to the car park at North Parade, and we're all leaving the bus with not much on, and then everyone's gone, "Seb, look over there," and there she was, a ball of raging fire walking straight towards me, and just gave me an absolute barrage. It did give me a moment to explain what had happened. I just remember there's one thing I remember was Harry Rouse saying, "God, he needs some luck here," and yeah. But you know what, mate? I'll do it all again.
There is footage of that moment as well, isn't there?
Oh, there is. There was a video clipping, and that's where I can remember it. Harry Rouse in the background saying something on Nausea. "God, he's in for he needs some luck here," because it was and I woke up with the sorest head.
Yeah,
but cider and beer, and a few apologies were sent to the family. But like you said, they were, those moments. My dad's, he's played cricket for Christ for 35 years, and he said, I've never played an innings like that. I've won more trophies than you have, but I've not done. Yeah, and that innings will stick with me for the rest of my life. And I loved every minute with you lads.
That's the thing about the national, mate. It's the thing about this podcast, because there'll be people that have joined the club recently, or young boys and girls coming through that are making their way in the game and finding their way and finding out about Bath and all its history. And I think it's important to talk about these games because they shouldn't ever be forgotten, because for all the people that play in the games and the people that are watching, they have sort of a special place in your memory that, and that, will never change. I think back to so many different, special days on a cricket field with 10 of your mates, trying to do something a bit different and a bit special. And who knows, mate? Maybe if we'd have had you in the semi-final, we might have.
Well, that goes back to what we started at the start. Was
out there why you weren't playing in the semi-final?
Back to why I only played 90% of the season is my cousin got married in Bristol, and believe me or not, I tried so hard to just in my head. I planned a route with Mutley. Said it's about 3.5 hours. If we can get you away by 6:30, you'll be back for 9:30, maybe 10. You can get there for cut the cake or whatever. I was like, mate, there's no way I'm getting out. This is the first family wedding I've got. I just couldn't get out of it. And I think the final call was made on the Thursday from Mutley. Are you sure you can't do this? I was like, mate, I've got to go to this. And it was horrific because I've seen that obviously Lloyd gone down the first day, but I'm thinking, oh God, I wish I was there. And they're a good side, obviously they had a couple of ex-pros playing for them as well, and
they were a good side. I think. Oh, obviously for me that was my last crack at it, but I think of all the years, where I felt what might have been 2015. I don't think felt that way to me, because I think in many ways we overachieved. We were nowhere in the league. I think we finished about 4th or 5th in the league.
Foster winning it at Bath, I think, wasn't it, and rubbing it in.
So I look back on some of the games that year as just being great fun. That Roffey game, mate, will always stick with me, because that was a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, it almost felt like we'd done the hard work with you in the last 16 and me in the quarters, that it was just going to happen. And
we didn't get that contribution, on the day at Blackheath. But mate, this when the club does eventually win it, there's going to be
11. We'll be there, mate, 100%. I can't wait. And
field that are going to achieve something brilliant, but there's going to be a hell of a lot of players and ex-players sitting in the stands watching and celebrating a bit much. So, listen, Seb, thank you so much for joining us today, mate. It's been a real treat.
No, pleasure, Letty. I've really enjoyed it.
That knock. And for those of you out there listening to this, we do have another episode coming up next week, and it will be Steve Griffiths talking us through another brilliant quarter-final win where Ealing in 2009. So one to look forward to. He's a very interesting character, so I'm sure he's going to have a lot of good stories. But for now, thank you very much. Thank you, Sebastian, and look after yourself, mate.
Hang it up.
Take care, everybody.